Welcome to the X Block.
Am I right, Marine? Sir, yes, sir! Then listen up.
You're listening to the X Block. I'm Jared, he's Caleb. Let's get into it.
You are listening to the X Block, episode 13. I'm Jaren, and I'm here with Caleb.
Hey,
and this is the #1 Xbox podcast.
Probably.
Definitely. Always probably. You got to be safe, right? Don't want to get sued.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we don't want to get sued here. That's kind of what we're trying to avoid the most because, you know, we're pretty poor out here in the streets.
So, Caleb, what have you been playing?
Dude, what have I been playing? I think I've been mentioning for like the past 2 weeks. I've been playing Dragon Ball Xenoverse.
I think we're all the same.
Yeah, is it the same as last week? Man, this is a thrilling, exciting breaking news here on the X Block. Well, I guess it kind of is. I completed Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. Did I say? Oh, no, I said that last week. Damn it. And now I've been playing Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1 because I've been going back. And I got all those ultimate moves and super moves, you know, that have those random drops. I finally got all those. Took fucking forever, like 20 hours because, you know, they're RNG based. But I got them all. And I'm only missing one achievement in the game. Well, technically 2. But because there's one to get all the achievements because I guess they just kind of left the platinum trophy in there. But there's another one. And it is to observe 7 battles online. And let me tell you, Jaren, no one plays that game online. So I did what I do, dude. I hit up my boys on True Achievements. You know, I posted a boosting gaming session for Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Got some, you know, caught some peeps who dropped in. And tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central Time, we're about to hop in, and the 3 of us are gonna observe some online battles. So you basically take turns with like 2 people playing at once. And then the other person just observing. Apparently, it takes like 10 minutes per person, so it's pretty quick.
So there's like a cuck achievement?
Yeah, essentially there is. And so while I'm waiting, though, because that's an online achievement, I got all the other achievements. I went back even further, Jared. There's a game on the year 360 called Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Tenkaichi. Some of you may be familiar with like the Dragon Ball Z Budokai games and the Budokai Tenkaichi games from the PS2 back in the day. Those were hype. But this one, Ultimate Tenkaichi, came out on Xbox 360. And I was like looking through my achievements and I'm like, I'm in the Dragon Ball fucking mood right now. Like, I might as well just get this shit out of the way. Whatever Dragon Ball games I played. And the only other one I think I have achievements for is Ultimate Tenkaichi. So obviously I sold it back in like 2012. So I had to go to my local game exchange, which is a kind of a chain store with a bunch of retro shit and all that. You know how everyone has that store. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And so I bought Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Tenkaichi, and there's a few online achievements, like multiplayer achievements, that I just will not be getting. Like, fuck that. If you look at the descriptions, I'm like, no, absolutely not. They're like, gather a number of titles for doing specific things, and I'm like, I'm not even boosting this with somebody on TA. Like, it's just not happening. So I'm probably gonna end up with like 900 gamer score in that game. I currently have like 700. So basically, I gotta play through a hero mode thing again one more time, and I have to battle some CPUs, and that's kind of just what I'm going to be doing single player wise. And then otherwise, I don't know if we probably won't talk about it, you know, later because we're saving it for, I think it's next episode, but maybe it's the episode after. I don't know. No, it'd be the next episode. But you and I have been playing DayZ, our Game Pass or gameplay game.
That's true.
Co-op. So I don't know how much more I want to say about that. I'll let you talk about it if you want, but that's what I've been playing, man. So kind of different, kind of not, really.
I have been playing the exact same thing.
Assassin's Creed
Valhalla. I am now, 60 hours into it or something like that.
Are you out of the first area?
Right now I'm at a point where I'm still like, I got out of the first area because the first area is like Norway.
Yeah, I was joking.
And I'm in England, but
I meant the tutorial.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, England, but like I swear I did a main quest and it finished. And right now, every quest I seem to have is a side quest. So I'm not really sure where I'm supposed to find the main quest. I assume it's in the Longhouse, but I've been doing so many side quests that I seem to have like disappeared from the main quest.
I don't know how you're completely removed from whatever's going. You're just living your Viking life.
I've lost my purpose.
Wandering the wilderness is that game you've played it? Is the map and is everything as big as Odyssey, or is it slightly smaller?
It's not as big as Odyssey.
Well, that's good, but does it take as long to complete? It takes, because I've heard mixed things, but usually people say it somehow takes longer.
Yeah, because you have to do all of the stuff in each area. Like you have to find
the question marks.
No, it's not even question marks this time. There's something called wealth there's something called mysteries, and there's something called they're basically collectibles. I don't remember what the white one's called, but you have to complete all 3 of those in each area, and then you're done that area. But then sometimes you can't do certain mysteries unless you've done certain side quests, or you can't get the wealth.
Progress in the story or something.
Yeah, so I'm like going through and doing everything that I can.
Type shit.
Yeah, basically. I'm doing everything that I can, and then I'm kind of just waiting on the world to change and
waiting on the world to change.
For the main quest to at least show up again, or maybe I'm gonna have to go find it. I keep forgetting that I don't have a main quest, and then I keep doing side quests by accident.
You have to do them anyway for the achievements, though, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so you might as well, all right? Then you just kind of, that's how you play those games, man. You just become a god, and then you start the main quest, and, nothing can hurt you, and you've basically mastered everything there is to master.
Yeah, dude.
As your person's trying to work their way through becoming a Viking, you're like, nah, I'm already god. Like, you don't understand.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up.
Dude, in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the way to go, man, was like the way I did it at least, was you just upgrade all your bow stats and get like a really fucking set bow. And I was just a bow master with Cassandra. Dude, you lit people the fuck up. Like, it was like, battle this Cyclops. And I'm like, fucking, dude, the Cyclops is my bitch, dude. I just shoot like 5 arrows and he's gone. You know what I mean? Like, super hardcore OP.
Yeah, the skills are way more, like all over the place in this game, where you have like skill points, but then you also have something called abilities. But then you have between your like little skill point things that you use, you have like little minuscule upgrades where it's like damage to this thing or damage to that thing. But it's not really a choice because you have to go through a line to get to the skill point that you want to get to. So you basically, your character doesn't seem as like set in one way as they are in
That's
Odyssey.
Probably a good thing, but for me, like as a, kind of keeping it balanced and keeping, you're having to do everything, I guess, more. But as a player who just wants to snipe everybody with a bow and arrow with like 3 headshots at once, a little disappointing.
It's still like, honestly, the bow in this for me seems to be more effective than the other stuff was in Odyssey, because like in Odyssey you could at least fight. Like it seemed like you could make an entirely stealth-based character. And in this, all the stealth stuff revolves around like poisons, which I don't really give a shit about.
That. No.
So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna use my bow to be like mostly stealth, and then I'm gonna go up and stab people every once in a while.
Yeah. So you like this game more than Odyssey at this point? You think it's better or worse?
I like Odyssey better, but I'm enjoying the weirdness of this game so far.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool then. Yeah, it's I don't know, it's a little bit different. There's still like Greek mythology stuff in the Odyssey one, but I guess the Viking one and everything going on, maybe, I don't know if it's weirder or I haven't played it.
Yeah, it's a little weirder. It's mostly just that how closely related it seems to be to the modern timeline at some points that makes it a little weirder. Yeah. And they kind of just embraced, how like the DLC sent you to different places?
Yeah.
They kind of that's just kind of part of it.
Well, sweet. That's pretty nice.
It's definitely weirder and more like a differing experience across the board. So I'm not sure when I finish it which one I'll like better. But we should probably move on to Outside the Box.
Dude, to be continued.
And now, Outside the Box.
I'm thinking outside the box,
where we cover all the news you need to know outside the Xbox community. And first on Outside the Box, WB Games is getting broken up. Good, bad, or unimportant, Caleb?
It's definitely something. Probably bad, just because it seems like they were functioning pretty well before this. But what's the main news about them getting broken up, Jared? What do people need to know about?
On Monday, telecommunications giant AT&T said it had agreed to a deal to offload WB Games' parent company, Warner Media, which will merge with Discovery to form a new standalone company billed as one of the greatest global streaming players. The transaction, which is anticipated to close in mid-2022, will see AT&T receive $43 billion and its shareholders receive stock representing 71% of the new company, which is Discovery. WB Games hasn't been mentioned directly, but a spokesperson told Axios that the new deal will see it broken up in some form. Some of the gaming arm will stay with AT&T, and some will go with Discovery. Now, Caleb, what confuses me about this is everyone is like reporting this as a sale or / merger with Discovery. If your shareholders get 71% of the new company, didn't you buy the new company?
I'm an idiot, so that does not help in my discussion of this. But it says, the transaction, which is anticipated to close in mid-2022, which is forever from now, will see AT&T receive $43 billion and its shareholders receive stock representing 71% of the new company. That's a controlling share, but it's AT&T shareholders. I don't know who those shareholders represent. I would need to watch like a Richard Hogue video on this from, our boy at Hogue Law, but I don't understand this enough.
It feels like tax evasion to get out of AT&T's debt, right? Like that's what it's.
Well, they know they had debt, yeah. Because like a year ago, they were looking to sell, their gaming division, and then they had like a lot of potential buyers, and like Microsoft and Sony and others. Take-Two, I think, was looking, and then they're like, nope, we're not selling. Never mind, GG, bye. And they had some sort of, they basically got a quote from like what the value was of their game studios.
Yeah, $4 billion.
Yeah, and then they were not going to sell, and then I guess fucking Discovery or whoever offered a bunch of fucking money. And now I don't know if they're just doing this to get out of their debt, but yeah, they're offering up a large share of their media to Discovery. And I guess they're creating another company and then merging that with Discovery. So I don't know how this works, man.
It seems to be like we stopped AT&T, we moved everything to Discovery, and then we took over 71% of Discovery. It sounds like we didn't want to pay our debt on our old company, so we just became another company without the debt.
But it's weird, though, because in terms of their gaming division, someone speaking to Axia, it was a
Yeah, that's what I read, yeah.
Yeah, said some of the gaming arm will stay with AT&T and some will go with the new company. So what is that? Is that relevant? Like, are the licenses for WB licenses still going to be available to the teams that go to Discovery?
I don't know, because I thought they were all just said they were part of the same company. They're merging with Discovery. Yeah. So are you not the same company? Like, I don't understand how that works. Is Discovery going to start a gaming division? Like, what does this mean?
Perhaps we'll get more information in a week. But yeah, I'm not a corporate lawyer enough to know what this means. I guess, have to listen to Richard Hogue. Go to Hogue Law. He should have a video on this. He probably understands it way better. But
seems bizarre.
That's what I'm saying. Is like they're splitting up their gaming division, which is the main relevant news to the gaming audience. They're splitting their gaming studios between AT&T proper and this new company that they're merging with Discovery. I don't know what that means for licensing and for games currently in development at these studios, because, well, it's Rocksteady who makes the Batman and Suicide Suicide Squad, NetherRealm who's making Mortal Kombat, Monolith who makes the Middle-earth games, TT Games, which is the Lego developer, and then Avalanche who's making the new Hogwarts game, WB Montreal is making Gotham Knights, and then etc. There's a few more studios, but who cares?
Yeah.
Those people, it's just like, dude, some of them are going, some of them are staying. And I don't know what that means for their games or for the licensing, but I assume the games that they're working on will stay in development. And I don't know how these licensing deals will exist in perpetuity because it's somewhat of a merger, right?
Yeah, they still own all the stuff. So
like the article is like, the way it writes it is that it's Warner Brothers games will be broken up as owner AT&T unloads its media business in a sale/merger with Discovery. Dude, I'm so stupid. I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah, that was the quote. So I don't know if that means that the new company is going to take half of their studios and maybe sell them. Like, is that a possibility?
I don't know. It's perhaps we'll get more information about this. And I guess this isn't taking place for a solid year.
Yeah.
In effect. So this will develop and we'll certainly get much more information maybe in the coming weeks, but definitely in the next year. Until then, like I say, Richard Hogue, probably our greatest source of information on this at Hogue Law, his YouTube channel, I think, or his YouTube show Virtual Legality. He'll have something on this. We'll just say that whatever the fuck is happening with Warner Brothers Game Studios is currently in question. Some question. Maybe not a big question, but some sort of question. And I guess we didn't say it at the top, but this news, by the way, comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. So there you go. Credit to him. He wasn't the first to report on this, but that's where we're getting our news source from.
Yep. The next story in Outside the Box. Is Ubisoft still a shit place to work?
It looks like it might be, Jared. Not gonna lie to you.
Almost a year after toxic workplace allegations, Ubisoft employees reportedly say nothing has changed. This news is from IGN by Rebecca Valentine, and they're essentially quoting a Le Telegram article, which was translated by gamesindustry.biz.
Yeah, they're a French media organization.
And that place states that the first wave of legal proceedings brought by workers union Solidaire's Information Jeux Video beginning this month. Ubisoft has done minimal work to improve its culture. For one, many of the accused still have jobs at the company, such as NATO studio lead Florent something French, Castellanarc, about whom Solidarities published 10 testimonials relating bullying and abusive behavior towards employees. He is still the NATO managing director, according to the studio's official website. And another person remaining, despite allegations, is former Singapore studio lead Hughes Rickor, who Kotaku reported was taken down from his role following an audit in wake of allegations. His LinkedIn profile indicates that he did not leave his role in Singapore until February, 3 months after the Kotaku report, and who LinkedIn now says has a role as a production intelligence director in Ubisoft's Paris headquarters. So, like you said to me before the podcast, they're just doing the Pope thing, or the not the Pope, but like the.
Well, I know what you're saying, the Catholic Church
the
thing,
Catholic
or like
Church
someone
thing.
does. You know, in the Catholic Church, I don't want to generalize the Catholic Church, but you have, priests who diddle kids, and then they're like, bad, and then they move them around to like another church, like as, has been detailed heavily in various reports. Yeah, it was kind of funny because it was like, they're like, you did a bad, and they like just shifted him to the Paris headquarters. I was like, man, that's some Catholic Church vibes to me.
Yeah, after they said they were going to dismiss him, and then he like stepped down from his role 3 months after they said that, and then they just moved him to Paris.
Yeah. So there were a lot of the stories, there were reports by, I guess, employees still there in their late Telegram report as well, that nothing has changed since Yves Guillemot said that, who is the head of Ubisoft, said, that they were going to work to like change their culture after a lot of HR reports and complaints of harassment and all these, and a toxic workplace culture kind of went, they didn't get past HR, we'll say it that way. And like, apparently nothing's changed. They reached out, I guess, Ubisoft spokesperson. So they said something like, some changes include anonymous reporting tools that are accessible to all employees, ongoing company-wide training regimes or regimens on, quote, appropriate workplace conduct, end quote, and revamping the code of conduct. Ubisoft also filled its 3 newest roles, Chief People Officer, Head of Workplace Culture, and VP of Global Diversity and Inclusion to, quote, ensure the longevity of the changes that have been put in place. That's basically what Ubisoft has said they've done since last, I guess it was July, last summer, when they said they were going to make these changes once the toxic workplace culture became a big mainstream video game news story.
Yep.
And by the way, what I read was from Jeremy Winslow over at GameSpot.
Yep.
Because, IGN and GameSpot wrote about this, and I'm sure a bunch of other people. But yeah, and then, so basically Ubisoft has said that that's what they've done, and then people at the company are like, yeah, but not really much has happened, and you guys, a lot of people who have done shit are still there, apparently in HR, and you guys just shifted around that one guy, that was kind of shady. Apparently, since Yves Guillemot's cousin became the head of Ubisoft Montreal, like nothing much has happened there, and so it's kind of like a he said, she said thing. But it seems like the workers are probably, that have kind of came up with this, probably are more honest to being like, yeah, nothing really happened. Nothing's really changed too much. But the Ubisoft said additional initiatives are underway and are being rolled out over the coming months, end quote. And then they said, we are committed to strengthening our culture and values in the long term to help ensure every team member at Ubisoft is heard, respected, and valued in the workplace. So, Jaren, what do you think about all that? You have anything to say about this particular news?
You see, Caleb, when I want to promote extreme change in my business, the first thing I do is hire my cousin.
Yeah, man, he's a good guy. I know him. Dude, I know my cousin better than anybody who's applying for this job. He'd be great.
Hey, you don't like how I run things? All right, that's fine. I'm going to hire my cousin.
He's a great guy, though, man.
That guy's not 100% going to be loyal to the exact same way that stuff was before, right?
Yeah, well, to be fair to Yves Guillemot, I don't know much about him. He seems kind of cool just from his, corporate appearance. But it did seem like when he made his video and everything last year and all this shit came up, that he genuinely was unaware about a lot of shit that was happening because of the fact that the stuff, the complaints and the things that came to HR and other things just didn't get past certain people.
Yeah, that's true. It sounded like HR didn't send him.
Like, it seems like, yeah, things like Yves Guillemot seemed to be genuinely unaware of any of this, even though I guess since he's the CEO, or I think he's the CEO, he's head of Ubisoft, whatever, the buck stops with him, so it's kind of his responsibility to, know about this and be able to, like, not have a company where things like this aren't known by you. It's kind of your responsibility. But I guess at the same time, it's like, well, he didn't know, though, so... But then I guess he's responsible for making the changes, and if the changes haven't been properly implemented, then also that's his fault.
I guess in that case, Caleb, maybe the cousin move makes sense. He's like, yo, nobody's telling me shit. I'll put my cousin in charge. He'll tell me.
Cousin's gonna hit me up.
He'll definitely tell me.
Yeah, so what they said about his cousin, where is this at? It says, the GameSpot article says, while in Canada, a source told Le Telegram that, quote, nothing has changed, end quote, since Guillemot's cousin, Christophe Durains, replaced Yanis Malot as head of Ubisoft Montreal in July 2020. Further, employees who have filed new harassment cases since had their issues sidelined in December 2020. So it seems like that guy, I don't know if he's the best for the job. I just don't have enough primary sources and information about this to give like a definitive case review of what the fuck's going on. I just have these GameSpot IGN reports, but it seems that more probably needs to be done. It seems like shit's not happening like it should be happening.
I'm guessing that because it's like at this current moment, and the people who are hearing this are even further behind, but we're like 5 pegs down the chain. Like this French people reported on this article. They probably have like detailed quotes and like accounts because they're actual journalists. Then GameIndustry.biz picked it up, who's one of the closest things gaming has to journalists. And then IGN decided to write about it afterwards. And they're about the furthest the gaming industry gets from actual journalists. And then we picked it up. And we're just like a step ahead of IGN, but we don't have all the information from the first one because it was in French.
Yeah, exactly. So based on what Jared and I understand, it seems like a lot of the changes Ubisoft said they're implementing, they've done some stuff that they feel confident about, like hiring these new rules and having an anonymous tool to, file complaints. But it seems like more needs to be done. And Ubisoft, for their credit, I guess, says that there's more coming. But I don't know, do we believe them? Who knows? Probably not. So have fun working at Ubisoft, though. They make good games.
I believe that the guy that they moved to Paris might be coming soon.
You fucking high five, Jared. Fucking got him.
Yeah, so mostly, I think the only thing we could definitively side on is, fuck that guy.
Yeah, dude, that guy's a fucking poo-poo head.
Yeah.
I said it. I'll say it again.
So there you go. The X Block. Doesn't like that guy.
No.
I don't even remember his name because it was too hard to say.
Yeah, indeed. Amen.
But I'll know if I ever meet him, he'll go, "Hey, this is me," and I'll go, your name's too hard to say. You must be that guy from Ubisoft.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll try to diddle or bully me. That's how I know it's him.
Next up, Rockstar confirms GTA 5, PS5, and Xbox Series X/S release for November 11th, 2021.
You know more about this, Jaron. What does this mean? What is this?
Essentially, this is the fancy next-gen version, which includes new features, and they're saying it's expanded and enhanced, so maybe that means new single-player content. I'm not saying it is, because I don't want to be part of this Grand Theft Auto rumor community, which is worse than the Starfield community, where they're like, someone farted in a room that I was in. GTA 6 next month.
Yeah, those GTA 6 people, I don't know where the fuck they come from. I don't know how. Fuck those people.
So, the only concrete stuff we got, expanded and enhanced, including new features, and the online portion will be available free exclusively to PS5 players during the first 3 months. Exclusively free to them, not exclusively to PS5 players.
Yeah, okay.
And they've also announced, in other just GTA-related news, in honor of the upcoming 20th anniversary of Grand Theft Auto 3, there will be more fun surprises are planned, including some specifically for GTA Online players.
I imagine, at least at the end of this year or a little after, they will have some sort of additional heist or add-on for, not single-player content, but just for GTA Online in terms of keeping that vibrant while they launch this new stuff. I'm confused though. Is this going to be a new game, or are they just having these updates for these upgrades for the game? For instance, when you load up Xbox and it has the Assassin's Creed or whatever, when it comes out, it can be like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and then later they patch some shit in, and then it's Series X and S enhanced, the logo on it. Or is this a new game that you can buy?
Okay, I'm not 100% sure, but commenting on the next-gen versions of GTA 5 in March, the CEO of Rockstar parent company, Take-Two, said he was confident the remaster would deliver a strong experience for players. By the wording of that statement and him calling it a remaster, that makes me think that it's not free.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think they're free. They're maybe not free upgrades for the game. It seems like they may release. I just don't know how that would work. Are they going to release a GTA Online standalone next gen thing aside from the single player as well? Because why would you remaster the single player unless they're adding new single player stuff? I don't know. This is all. I just don't know whether they're doing a patch to the new games to remaster them and make them run better as the back compat versions on the new consoles, or whether they're releasing a new standalone GTA 5 released again for next gen consoles, $30, whatever it is, $40, and you get all these enhancements.
I have a feeling that it's a full remaster that you can also just connect to your old online stuff and still play with the people that are in the old online servers, because all it's going to be is graphics and textures upgrades.
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of with you, where it looks like it's going to be the next gen versions of the next gen game releases. I don't know, but I mean, this is good for GTA 5 because, they're going to be like in the top 10 best-selling games again this year. So that's going to be fun.
Yep, they've now sold over 140 million units of GTA 5.
That's absurd. It's the second best-selling game ever. And that's what's crazy.
It's full price.
GTA 5 is the second best-selling game ever, but it's not. Like, Minecraft is the first. But GTA released at a retail $60, dude. And then it's not on as many platforms as Minecraft. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely an insane feat and a pretty impressive accomplishment.
Yeah, and I guess the fact that they're doing this, that kind of maybe indicates you're like the people who are like GTA 6 incoming fucking soon. Like, you're not seeing that shit for a while, man. Like, years. Like, you wouldn't release this and then release GTA 6 like next year, you know?
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't.
Doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not even, so I wouldn't even expect a trailer even in like 2022, maybe even 2023. I don't know.
Yeah, you're probably right. But speaking of future things from Take-Two, Civilization and XCOM studio Firaxis will reveal several exciting projects this year. Now, these are the people behind Civilization and XCOM, and apparently XCOM Chimera Squad, or Chimera Squad, and XCOM
Chimera,
2,
yeah.
Chimera 2 on Switch had one of its best gaming years ever. So I'm hoping we get more XCOM. It seems like this is kind of a quick story because basically they've just said they're making games, but this falls into Take-Two's 93 new game releases in the next 5 years that they have promised to shareholders based on all the franchises they own. And we're going to talk about 2 of those other franchises just quickly because we don't want to stay too much on outside the box, but they've also talked about a new Gearbox franchise, which is apparently going to come out before April 2022. And someone responded on Twitter saying, that quickly? And then Randy Pitchford responded with, by quickly, you mean years of work? So clearly Gearbox has been working on this one for a while.
Didn't Gearbox also make Godfall? Wasn't that them?
Yeah, they made Godfall and they made
so they split their
Borderlands 3. But that being said, dude, none of these games ever are that, like, impressive unless they're Borderlands. It seems to be the only game that they can actually make.
Yeah, so for those of you probably don't know, Jaren, long time XCOM fan, huge XCOM fan, and huge Borderlands fan. And Jaren has said for years, where he's like, oh yeah, Gearbox, Borderlands is awesome. And he's like, but anytime Gearbox tries to make another game that's not Borderlands, fucking sucks. So, and Godfall came out, and there you go. Apparently, the studio Gearbox, I don't know, I assume they were working on the Borderlands 3 DLC from Season 1 and this new Seasons 2 Director Cut bullshit. So they had their team working on Godfall, and then they had their team working on the Borderlands 3 expansion shit, and then they had another part of their team that was working on this new game for years. Kind of interesting.
Apparently, I don't think that many people worked on Godfall based on what I've seen.
I guess. It seems like, I don't know, a lot of money put into that game that they ate, so...
Well, Sony paid them entirely for exclusivity, so I assume they actually probably paid off the game.
Yeah, that's I don't think they paid it off, but they didn't need as big of a loss as I think they otherwise would have. So that's true. But yeah, dude, this news is pretty good that we're seeing a lot of new games coming from our boys over at Take-Two. But this Gearbox game, new franchise, we'll see. We'll see about it,
Yep.
And they say that the Civilization XCOM studio will reveal several exciting projects this year. We assume it's going to be at E3, right?
Yeah, we're assuming it's going to be at E3, and Take-Two's also said, like, a subset of the 93 games over the next 5 years. It says it intends to release 21 games during its current fiscal year, including 4 immersive core games. So those core games are the big ones we care about.
And so I would imagine that within the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks with E3, that we will see something from some of these titles.
Yeah, we'll see a very active Take-Two, and one of those titles won't be their new NFL series. They've announced that they've delayed that, it seems indefinitely, because it was supposed to come out in April 2022, and it just says it will no longer be releasing in April 2022. So that's kind of just a toss away, because we were talking about Take-Two.
And one day you will play that game. Maybe. Yo, let's I just want to throw this one out, Jaren. I think it was last week, I asked you, came up randomly. Beyond Good and Evil 2, when's that coming out? Well, maybe every week or so, I'm going to do another different game. Jaren, when do you think fucking Skull and Bones is coming out? You remember that game? Remember Skull and Bones?
Skull and Bones? I'm feeling...
I know they just delayed it again, but when do you think that's...
Dude, I'm feeling 2022.
You feeling it?
Yep.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna say 2023.
I'm going to say it either comes out 2022 or it's canceled before 2022. I don't think it lives on past 2022.
That game was announced in 2017 at E3, I think. I just love these games that people announce and take 7 years to make. Not like the Elder Scrolls 6, where they kind of just said that it's being, going to be made fucking one day because they're making Fallout 76, which is an MMO kind of game. And they were like, hey, don't worry about it. We're still committed to single player games. And people were like, yeah, but you only had to announce one of those. You didn't have to announce the other one. Like, come on. But anyway, that game's going to take forever. But I love these games that are like, a Last Guardian or a Final Fantasy fucking 7 remake or Skull and Bones or, Beyond Good and Evil 2, where you're like, shout out to you announcing this game and taking 9 years to make it kind of thing.
Yep. It's a bizarre strategy that's
totally unrelated.
That Sony first coined when they would announce games 5 years before or they'd announce them 5 years before they came out, say that they were coming out in 2 years and then delay them.
Yeah, that's exactly that's what Sony does. They really do.
So I guess it's kind of just the video game norm at this point. I guess get used to that.
I think you and I were talking about it off air, but we were like, yeah, Xbox actually did that for, one of the few times they did that when the new consoles were launching, just to seemingly let people know that, like, hey, these games like Fable and Forza Motorsport 8 and like some of these other games are like, yeah, they're coming. Hang on. Like, we got games coming to Game Pass and you can invest in this new system and there will be games. So,
yep.
Xbox has done it too.
Since we're running a little bit long on Outside the Box, we're going to tackle this next one as more of a question based on what I read to you. Is EA finally learning? So I'm going to prime this one for you, Caleb. Almost like a mini X Factor. EA's CEO says Codemaster will be able to retain its identity like Respawn has. And the Codemaster CEO in this story does back that up. He says that they kind of fit in like a glove and they're not being forced to use any of EA's technology, but they are being offered it. So it sounds like EA's finally taking the Microsoft approach on when they buy a studio. They're not murdering it.
The Microsoft approach, yeah.
And the second one related to this is former Shadow of Mordor boss is leading a new EA studio making open-world action games based on the success of Jedi Fallen Order. EA has decided to create a new open-world action-adventure game studio after ruining all their other open-world action-adventure game studios.
Visceral Games, Pandemic, never forget.
Is this a turn, Caleb? Do we think EA has finally learned, again, it's weird that they forgot, that people enjoy single-player experiences and that they shouldn't meddle so much in their studios?
Probably a bit. The shit goes in waves too. Like, it's weird. Ubisoft has said that now they're kind of focusing more on investing in free-to-play games in the future and that kind of shit. And then EA's like backing up and being like, well, actually, we're going to kind of leave our studios alone a little bit more. And we're going to invest, after the success of Jedi Fallen Order, we're going to invest more heavily in single-player games. So EA, fucking well-known in the industry as a goddamn studio closer. They buy shit and then close them. That's what they do. So they've canceled like 3 Star Wars games that were exactly what they're saying they want now, even though the one that they released, which was a Respawn fucking second like spin-off half their team was working on, that one did great. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe we shouldn't have canceled Amy Hennig's game on fucking Star Wars, all that. And they canceled, they shut down Visceral and Pandemic, and now they're opening an open world action adventure game with this new Shadow of Mordor boss. So it's like, I'm happy they're doing that. That's good. It seems like they're going to be actually making single player focused games more now moving forward. And apparently they're a great publisher to work with Joseph Ferris, our kind of favorite developer, who over there at Hazelight, who makes It Takes Two.
Yep.
And A Way Out and shit. So it's like EA has good and bad aspects about them. This part's good. The Codemasters guy is like, yeah, they're leaving us alone, like Respawn. It's like, okay, I guess. It's going to be interesting if they ship your game out to die in the way that they kind of did with one of Respawn's games, where they launched Titanfall 2 between Battlefield and Call of Duty, and then they're like, well, Titanfall 2 didn't sell well, we're not making another one right now. It's like, fuck you. But this news is good. I don't think it's bad. I like single player games. I prefer them. It seems to be an opposite investment approach to what Ubisoft is currently doing. So that's interesting, because Ubisoft's usually the quote-unquote good guys in this realm.
Yep. And so I'll say it this way. If Codemasters' next game after the one that they've already been working on when EA bought them, if their next game does not run on Frostbite for no reason, I believe them.
Dude, Frostbite fucking sucks. Not gonna lie.
It's like great for shooters, but they use it for all their sports games, and even their Need for Speed games have finally like hit the ground running. So I guess it's possible that Codemasters could use it with help from the Need for Speed studios, because it seems like, as EA states in that Codemasters article, they're now kind of going to be the number one place for racing games, because they're going to have one every single year, essentially, because F1 releases pretty much every year, but then they're also going to have Need for Speed games peppered in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like all those racing studios working together should be able to come out with rock solid games.
Yeah, that's their strategy. That's what EA wanted to do.
Yeah,
when they acquired these studios.
So EA may be moving back into the glory days of when racing games were some of the most played games back when everyone was really big into car culture on like the PS2.
Yeah, with the Need for Speed games are great. But this news, it's like, I don't know, it comes in waves, man. Like, they're doing this now, but like, what, 5-10 years from now, they'll probably go back and do something else stupid and shitty, right? And then, what do you say, in like 5 to 10 years, maybe Ubisoft will like reinvest more heavily in single-player shit. I don't know, you know?
Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt for the first time in EA's life until we see their EA press conference, EA Play, or whatever the fuck they're gonna call it, and they drop the ball on that super hard, and then I'll be like, all right, never mind. But as of now, EA, you got the benefit of the doubt from the X Block. Next up on Outside the Box, and the last news topic on Outside the Box, it's a quick one. Summer Game Fest news. Now I'm just gonna break this one down for you pretty easily, Caleb. Summer Game Fest has announced that they're going to have this fancy opening show taking place on my birthday, June 10th at 2 p.m.
Heyo.
Eastern Standard Time.
Shout out.
And it's called Kickoff Live. And it's going to have, and I quote, more than a dozen world premieres and announcements.
World premiere.
And one thing I will say, because basically this is just a normal gaming show, but I want to give them a shout out. This is the first event will also feature a performance by Weezer. And when I heard this, I was like, well, now like nobody's going to be able to stream this or that kind of stuff because they're going to get demonetized when Weezer plays a bunch of their original songs, right?
Yeah.
They will debut a brand new stream safe game soundtrack song that can be freely streamed on Twitch,
yeah.
YouTube, and anywhere else without being blocked or losing monetization. So they even thought of that. Like, that's just an extra little step that makes me like Jeff Keighley even more.
Good guy Jeff out here. PlayStation fan through and through, but like, good guy. And so it says, first of many events, this is from The Verge, it says, first of many events that will be part of Summer Game Fest. Some of the publishers confirmed to be participating in Summer Games Fest include 2K, Activision, Blizzard, Capcom, Epic Games, Sony PlayStation, Riot Games, Square Enix, Ubisoft, and Microsoft Xbox. And this takes place right before the E3 conferences, yeah?
Yep.
So probably won't see, I don't know, you may have a couple big things, but and maybe they'll show off some people, some publishers will show off some things initially, like a teaser or whatever, and then kind of tease that more gameplay or a bigger trailer will be shown at an E3 conference. But I don't know what the size is. Jeff has good connections, and he knows what he's doing. And this is during that E3 time frame. So he probably has a couple cool things to show, I would think.
Yeah, I would assume.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. And at least it's next to E3. It's not, he's going to have more shit with the summer nonsense throughout the summer, obviously. And we talk about that, how it's annoying how, now the video games journalists decided that E3 wasn't enough and now they want a mini E3 every fucking week for 5 months. But at least this one's right next to E3.
Yeah, definitely. It's always better when it's right next to E3.
Yeah.
Moving on to the review roundup.
In a world where reviews are too long to read and review videos are too long to watch, one man will compile all of the reviews and turn them into one easily digestible stream of information. This is the Review Roundup.
And in typical review roundup fashion, Caleb, there's nothing to talk about.
This is the best meme. This is the best ongoing meme of the show by far every week. Because I love it because I listen to the podcast usually every week to make sure, everything's up, like you did the editing job right. And I just love how I listen to the In a World One for fucking 10 minutes and then it ends and you're just like, and nothing. It's the best every week. Jaren wrote in here, possibly Knockout City if reviews hit. Did reviews hit, Jaren?
They did, but it's just not, there's not enough of them to warrant doing it. Like, it's a good game. It sounds like, go play it. It's free on Game Pass. Caleb and I'll probably give it a shot because dodgeball multiplayer sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's got 8s pretty much across the board, so people like it.
Many do. So there you go. Mini review roundup right here. Not really in-depth deep dive because, it's Knockout City, but again, once something like a Resident Evil Village drops or something larger like that, you'll get stuff from Jaren. I'd say me and Jaren, but that's not true. It's Jaren. And Ratchet and Clank coming out soon. Guess what? Won't be here. PlayStation shit. So there you go.
Yep.
Are we doing Biomutant, Jaren? Can we tease that? Are we doing a Biomutant review roundup?
If it's really, really good or it's really, really bad, we'll do it. If it's like a 6 or 7, no.
No? Okay, not worth it?
Not worth it.
All right, so there you go. Stay tuned for possibly to almost certainly be disappointed. There you go.
And now, the X Block.
Dude, never forget my boy DMX.
We're starting off with the Starfield saga, Caleb.
I'm tired of talking about Starfield, Jared.
Me too. So at this point, I don't really want to comment too much on other rumors. There are other rumors that are related to Starfield, but
this is an important story though, so we'll go
this
over
one. This one we're gonna go over. But I mean, there's other ones, rumors and things related to Starfield, like Tom Cruise supposedly being in it and all this kind of stuff. So we're gonna leave all that shit out.
Well, I actually don't want to entirely. That shit's kind of weird though, because apparently Starfield, like the account, or Bethesda or whoever, tweeted it in like 2018 or 2017 or some nonsense.
I know, but I mean, like, it's Tom Cruise. He's weird. He probably just was like, "What the fuck's a Bethesda?" and then moved on with his life. But I guess we'll see at E3.
Half the budget of the game to get him in it. So.
But speaking of things that I don't know are kind of confirmed, I assume Jason Schreier's right.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm kind of with you.
He says, let's make this very clear. Bethesda's plan is to tease a release date for Starfield at E3. That date is in late 2022. I'll leave the specifics to them, but please keep your expectations in check and refrain from sending death threats when the other rumors turn out to be false.
It's kind of fun. I don't even like Jason. I think he's a prick, but that's kind of funny.
Yeah, and Tom Warren backed this up by saying, yup, not coming this year.
Yeah, so based on the information that Jared and I have had for a while, based on what everyone was saying and all we could garner, it seemed pretty clear to us and a lot of other people, like Mr. Manny Plays, who hosts the Defining Duke Xbox podcast and is a pretty reliable reporter generally and all that stuff. It seemed like from what people understood, Starfield was going to be announced this year. They had a copyright thing for this year, like they copyrighted the game for this year and all this other bullshit, I don't know. But it seemed like it was going to be announced this year at Microsoft's E3 event and showed off with a trailer, and that they would possibly release it this year in the fall. Although that would be weird, we already knew, because if they did, it would go up against Halo. So that would be kind of interesting and weird. But it seemed like it might, because that's how Bethesda usually announces games, is pretty soon before they're about to release. And then it was always possible that it could get delayed from 2021 into 2022. Possibly March, maybe June, I don't know, and then at the worst, maybe a year into the fall. With this new information from what Jason Schreier says and what Tom Warren says, and they seem to both know way more about it than we possibly could and have more inside sources and all kinds of other shit. It seems like the game got during the COVID. Well, first of all, it seems Jason says that the game got into development later than we assumed it did. And even though they were in some early stages of development, like 2017, 2016, maybe even, but 2018 when it kind of kicked off, it seems like Jason says that they weren't even to that big development into the game at that point, based on not the tweet that Jaren read, but some other shit, right, Jaren?
Yeah, he had another tweet where he said that they largely worked on Fallout 76 as their full Maryland studio largely worked on Fallout 76 until 2018.
Which is interesting, but, that's what he says. So there was that, and then apparently, like we kind of knew but didn't have confirmed, the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 severely impacted the development of that game in particular. Like, obviously, some games got less impacted by it, but apparently Starfield got more impacted by it. And now, based on this new information from Jason and other people, seems that the game is not launching this year. I would not expect it. We're almost certain they're still going to show it off at E3, so be prepared for a trailer or whatever. And release date is likely, I guess, at this point, going to be fall of 2022. And it'll be one of probably Microsoft's big games in 2022. And I mean, you shouldn't be surprised, by the way, if at some point that it also maybe gets delayed out of 2022 into 2023. It may not happen, but like I say, games just typically get delayed nowadays past the first initial release date of what people say.
Especially when you announce it a year out or a year and a half out. Or even if
they say it's coming out like September or October of 2022 and then it gets delayed a few weeks into like November, that could happen as well. So but yeah, it doesn't seem like it's coming out this year. It's not confirmed officially by Bethesda or by Microsoft, but based on these reporters who seemingly have a lot of information about it, they can confirm that it is not coming out this year. That is kind of the roundup of the Starfield information.
The weird thing about it is that, like, I wasn't really expecting 2021 because, like we said, I didn't think it would go against Halo.
I thought they might launch one earlier and one later.
Yeah, I was assuming maybe December or something
Yeah,
for
I don't-
Starfield. But I figured they'd more likely announce December and then go February.
Yeah.
Would have been my guess. But the weird thing about this is like, I don't have any sources, but Jason Schreier said this. And if we're just going off of what Todd Howard said about the game and when he was working on it and when his team was working on it in previous quotes, those don't line up with what Jason said.
Exactly. That's true too.
Todd Howard's like actual statements on when he was working on the game himself with his team don't match up with Jason Schreier's stuff about Fallout 76.
Yeah, and I wrote about this too, and I did research on it when I announced that Bethesda Austin was working on a new game. But it's really well known in the industry that up until about a year away from Fallout 76, not well known, I guess, but it's known by people who look into it and not known by people who are slightly ignorant and more casual about it, that Bethesda Austin was the primary developer on Fallout 76 up until about a year, maybe a little bit more, before the game came out, when it was, pretty much broken and shit. And Bethesda Maryland, which is primarily Bethesda Game Studios, they're both Bethesda Game Studios, but everyone knows Bethesda Game Studios as Bethesda Game Studios Maryland, who made The Elder Scrolls and Fallout and all that shit. Bethesda Game Studios Maryland went to save the game, essentially, and worked on it for the last year and a half of development. And then I guess we assumed more that they were less in development on the subsequent DLC and expansions. Maybe they were a little bit more involved than we anticipated. I guess that would make sense, considering that the expansions are what kind of seemingly made the game good, and Bethesda Austin seems to be the studio that made the game bad. But yeah, what Jaren said with Todd Howard and the lining up the development, it seems like this game was more in development earlier than what Jason Schreier is saying, but Jaren and I don't have all the information either. But it seems like there are multiple things being said that don't line up, and someone's right and someone's wrong.
Yeah, because Mr. Manny Plays, like we talked about him before, he apologized on Twitter for saying that if people felt like he misled them to 2021, that he had never like fully committed himself to 2021, but he gets how like I guess people mistook a lot of the things he said for relating to 2021, and he put out a statement, I think it was last night, about that.
Yeah, I saw. And apparently he had sources though from like February of last year. Like that's where he got his info from.
Yeah, and I saw another Twitter exchange with him with someone else who was like, knowing people who work at Bethesda, like this Schreier stuff doesn't add up either. And Mr. Matty Plays was like, yeah, I thought, or he said something along the lines of like, yeah, based like what my sources said, I'm confused about this too, but I guess we'll seem to go with it. So it seems like people who know people at Bethesda are confused about this, and obviously Jason Schreier knows some people at Bethesda, and he's saying this, and
possibly stuff's changed. People haven't talked to their sources more recently. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's still, obviously we're going to find out like 2 weeks from now. So that's more why we don't want to speculate and give our kind of opinion on which side's right, because we might as well just wait and see at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, more info is going to come out. We'll have much more info in E3 because it's almost 100% sure we're going to get a trailer. So Todd's probably going to walk up on stage and talk about it.
Speaking of E3, this is what Matt Booty has said about E3. He's basically confirmed, which we already knew, that Bethesda and Xbox Game Studios will be having a joint press conference. The interesting things that he's also pointed out is COVID-19 impacted production of new IP for Xbox Game Studios far more than teams that were working on existing IP. Because as like not being the biggest person into game development myself, but having taken like a small program, but also knowing people who like entirely finished the program because it was more their thing and talking to them about games, creating new stuff is far more difficult than working on an established IP where you have a lot of the creation tools. You don't have to create new things within an engine. So doing all of that kind of stuff a lot of the time comes through teamwork and through kind of beating your head against the wall and someone else maybe throwing in tips and helping you out. So when you don't have that collaboration because you're stuck at home, that's why developing a new IP or a new thing, which a lot of Xbox's game studios are doing, basically almost all of them.
Or at least spiritual reboots that are nowhere, not even similar to the previous games.
Yeah, things that aren't direct sequels, basically. Mm-hmm. Or even in Halo's case, they basically redid the whole thing.
Yeah, they're like making it into a first-person open world game, which is totally different.
So that's why a lot of these games are taking a little longer than we kind of expected them to take.
Yeah, like I don't expect that any of these studios like aren't working. Seems like they're all working. It's just taking them for fucking ever. And there is a valid complaint about people that perhaps Microsoft mismanages their studios too. I don't know how. I mean, how would you get these games made faster? I'm not sure, but that's a valid complaint, I guess. And like Jaren said, it makes sense though with new IP because you have you in the creative process. Yeah, if you're making a new game, perhaps sequels are somewhat different from their previous iterations, but they're not entirely different or new. Like if you're making a new IP and you need to create a new combat system and a new UI, you have to establish the world that it exists in and create lore. You have to create a new whole environment based on wherever the fuck it is your game takes place and new systems, and where it's very complicated, and it seems like it's heavy collaboration involved, specifically between creatives who are trying to establish what a new game even is and how it exists and the characters and the writing. There's no existing story or lore to base it on. So there's that too. Especially like if you're redoing Fable, you have kind of themes, but if you're kind of redoing it completely, then you're kind of maybe even redoing the world, and it's going to be a totally different way the game plays and all. It's like, I don't know, it's a lot going on. So seems like they're just having problems based on the pandemic, and that's Starfield's a part of that, even though that's not kind of Xbox's primary game studios games. It's just an example. And for those of you who don't know, yeah, Matt Booty is the head of Xbox Game Studios.
Yep.
It's kind of funny though, because he's the head of Xbox Game Studios, and I think Phil Spencer used to be. He got promoted to, I think, VP of games at Microsoft.
Yep, I think so.
And it's funny though, because basically Phil still has Matt Booty's job. I mean, kind of not, like Matt Booty shows up and says things and does this, but like, I don't know. It's like his boss is Phil, and Phil kind of runs things.
Matt Booty is kind of like, I guess, he's kind of like the Kevin Feige of the Xbox Game Studios. Like he's there to work basically with them and know what they're doing. And Phil knows what's entirely happening at all of Xbox. That's a better
analogy. Yeah. Shuhei Yoshida, I think, used to be head of PlayStation Games, right? Studios.
Yeah.
But then under Shawn Layden, so kind of like that relationship. I think, but Shuhei got demoted. This is a PlayStation thing, so perhaps those of you listening have no idea what I'm talking about, but yeah, that's kind of some PlayStation lore for you.
One thing to take out of this article, one of Matt Booty's other quotes. On the question of further acquisitions, Matt Booty answered, "I can't share anything." He didn't say no, so just saying.
We know that Xbox or Microsoft is gunning for more acquisitions to build their portfolio of IP. Their problem, obviously, is how they're going to manage, like 30 studios and the games and the release dates and the production and all this shit without closing any of them and all this other nonsense. That's a thing. But we know Microsoft is, at this point, still trying to acquire more people. Perhaps at E3, we will see something about some sort of acquisition. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And he also talked about how they make games. One of the things he said was that they don't want to take the Netflix approach, where Netflix uses data analysis to determine which kind of content works for a subscription service. Xbox doesn't want to force their studios into doing games that are focused primarily on a subscription service model. They want them to make the games they want to make, is what he said.
That seems like a strategy that's more long-term viable. It seems like if you're going short-term profit viability type thing, a company would typically go with the Netflix approach to kind of catering content toward like data-based content. But then perhaps in gaming, since games are things that are played and people review them, and it's kind of more nuanced and
subjective,
different than the video games, industry, or than the like video industry, TV, movies, and all that shit. Seems like long-term people would drop off, but I guess if it was data-based, maybe not. But anyways, it's good from a creative perspective and from people who play a lot of games and like diversity of types of games and content and want creators and artists to kind of fulfill their vision, that they're doing that as an approach to Game Pass. That's the thing with all these companies, though. It's always weird because they say that now, but like what happens 10 years from now when heads change, like different leaders come in and kind of like what we were talking about earlier with EA and Ubisoft. It's like, that's what they're saying now, and it's like, I hope that continues, but it's like, over time, we'll see how that plays out.
I feel like that's why when you're the head of a company, like almost the best thing to do, or the head of like a division in your company, is to like work with someone who's under you and like far younger to kind of like mold them in your future vision, so that when you hand over the reins to someone before you leave, like you can just leave and then you're kind of the one promoting the person, as opposed to just bouncing and letting somebody else take over, because that's how you get those huge swings like EA has.
Well, PlayStation too. People, I mean, this isn't a PlayStation podcast. People talk about in the PlayStation community, and we've talked about Jim Ryan, and that's come up on this show, where Shawn Layden was kind of pushed out, it seemed, and like a big change up in the company, and then Jim Ryan got promoted in, and it seems like Shawn Layden and Jim Ryan have kind of totally different visions of the company.
Yeah.
And so that's why you've seen, I mean, PlayStation's fine. They're going to be fine, and they're still going to release great games. It's going to be all this, but in terms of kind of general feelings and how you go about the business and the structure of the studios and the games, it seems that in that realm, like Jim Ryan totally kind of is different in many ways from what the general vibe that Shawn Layden brought, that kind of brought PS4 to be like one of the best selling video game consoles of all time. So that's just an example of what could happen at Microsoft and Xbox if shit doesn't go right and you don't get the right people in. That's why some people kind of criticize Phil Spencer for not being able to manage studios properly. And that's kind of valid with like Skybound and right, that was the game, right? Or Scalebound,
Yeah,
and all these other things and shit. But it's like
those were
and,
partnerships,
I don't know, Crackdown. Yeah, no, and it's interesting. I don't know. It's a critique that people have, and I can kind of see it. But then I'm like, yeah, but if you get somebody different in who's not Phil, that's the thing about Phil is he has a brilliant vision. He has a consumer-based, user-focused. He's a person who plays games and loves indie games, and he has a real good vision for the Xbox ecosystem and community. So if he leaves, like, what replaces that? And it's like something similar, but not as good. I don't know. So it's like all those critiques about Phil, I kind of like dismiss as like, yeah, but the culture and vision of Xbox as an ecosystem has been so good under him from what it was in 2013 and all the quality of life, consumer focused shit that we've gotten. Where, I mean, it's kind of a larger conversation out of this news, but I'm like, I hope that stays.
Yeah, and that was like, Scalebound was like a big third-party game. Like, they just happened to have exclusivity for it, even though it was like a different studio that they didn't own making it. And like, Crackdown, again, was just kind of a game that had been put together and not like didn't really have even the same team working on it the whole time. These next group of exclusives is going to be this Phil Spencer test on if he can manage studios.
Yeah.
Because they're the games that were entirely made underneath him.
Yeah, and he was also less focused on the first party at the time as in terms of just saving the general ecosystem from TV shit. You know?
Yeah. Moving on to the next story. This one's actually a pretty quick one. I'm only going to read the headline. Microsoft has closed a loophole that lets users get cheaper Xbox Game Pass subscriptions with EA Play loophole. All that was you could convert your EA Play subscription into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate at a cheaper price. And that has been closed up by Microsoft. They decreased the value of EA Play's conversion into Game Pass to make it more even.
Yeah, so you either got in on it or you didn't. There's still not loopholes, but things where you can still buy, if you don't have Game Pass right now or something, you can get Xbox Live in a way and convert it gold and convert it to Game Pass that still saves you a ton of money.
Yeah, I believe that still works, and you can wait for Black Friday, like we've said many times.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I saw somebody in a Twitter, this story got posted, and someone in a Twitter, in the comments for the article, said, I just wait for Black Friday anyway, and I think I responded to that guy, amen. Because I'm like, dude, that's what you do, man. Buy that shit up on Black Friday, half off, dude.
Yep. And in more changes to the way Xbox kind of functions as a whole, these more positive. Xbox announces big accessibility improvements for Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And there's not really too much to say about this except good job, but I'm going to read you what is actually happening. So in a blog post on Xbox Wire, Director of Xbox Accessibility Anita Mortallone announced a new program called the Xbox Accessibility Insider League. This program is available to anyone with a disability and allows them to give accessibility feedback directly to both the Xbox engineering team as well as game developers. Other incentives include a gaming and disability player experience guide, which gives game developers tools and areas to consider while designing their games. Accessibility guidelines have been updated, as well with more guidance on things like screen narration, difficulty, UI, and captions. In the future, there will also be party chat options for both speech-to-text conversations as well as text-to-speech. Some of Microsoft's first-party games are getting more accessibility features too. Gears 5's navigation ping will let players with little or no vision make their way through areas using audio cues. And there are also options to disable camera shake or enable target lock for Minecraft. The achievement screen has been redesigned to make it easier to navigate and read or have it narrated to you, as well as offering more granular audio control. So there you go. There's Xbox continuing their industry-leading accessibility tools, and obviously we just want more people to be able to play games, so we here at the X Block 100% for that.
Yeah, it's just good shit. In Sony's world, they do not have such a big push for accessibility. It's like on a studio by studio basis, it seems. Like, and I know The Last of Us 2 has a bunch of great accessibility options. Like, It's very in-depth, and there's a lot there, like a shit ton. And so, but some of their other studios, from what I understand, there's not, and there's definitely not like a Sony-wide initiative in the same way that Xbox has it. So Xbox, the leader in accessibility, which is dope because there are a lot of people out there who like suffer and have real problems, physical and otherwise, or disabilities, like veterans and people who had their fucking hands blown off and all kinds of bullshit. Where it's like those people want to play games too and try to enjoy life, and Xbox is trying to make that, or Microsoft's trying to make that happen for them. So that's pretty cool.
Yep. And game related now, moving on to Game Pass, all of the games that these accessibility options will help in the future and ones that hopefully these people are able to play now. More Game Pass titles have been announced for May, and we're just going to read through these.
I think these announcements came out like, I don't know, a day after we recorded our last
They
episode.
always do. They always come out on Saturday.
Yeah, so there you go.
May 18th, Caleb's favorite game, SnowRunner, comes to console, PC, and cloud. On May 20th, Peggle 2 comes to cloud. Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville comes to cloud. Secret Neighbor comes to PC. The Wild at Heart comes to console and PC. May 21st, Knockout City, which we talked about earlier, comes to console and PC. The Catch, Carp, and Course Fishing comes to console, PC, and cloud. There you go, Caleb, another fishing
Don't say
game for you.
anything. I was waiting for you to not say anything. I hate you.
May 25th, the greatest game of 2020. Some say the greatest game of a generation. Maneater comes to console, PC, and cloud. Finally going to jump on that one, Caleb?
A lot of editorializing there, Jaron.
No, that's what people say. I've never even played it.
Yeah, you shut the fuck up. Yes, you have. What are you talking about, you lying ass bitch? Fucking. Am I going to play it now? Probably not, just because I have other shit I want to play at the moment. But I recognize that Maneater is a very unique and interesting take on, is it kind of an RPG?
Yeah, it's better than every game you want to play.
Better than every game I want to play is Jared. That's interesting, because a lot of games are better than any game that I want to play, but that doesn't mean I want to play them just because they're better. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true. Caleb's weird.
I'm not weird. Shut the fuck up. I want to play what I want to play. Leave me alone.
On May 27th, there's a big drop. Conan Exiles comes to console and cloud. Fusion Frenzy comes to cloud. Joyride Turbo comes to cloud. Mech Warrior 5 Mercenaries comes to console. Slime Rancher comes to PC. Solasta, Crown of the Magister, comes to PC.
That's not real. You made that up.
Spellforce 3 Soul Harvester comes to P3. And
P3?
a PC.
Dude, comes to Phil Spencer himself.
And The Priest, Vision of the Child, comes to console. That last one wasn't real, by the way.
Oh, you made that up?
Yeah.
Okay. I was concerned. I didn't even hear. I was concerned about the fucking B-52 fighter in my house.
I said The Priest, Vision of the Child.
That's really good, man. That was a good one. Just on a note about all this cloud shit that I heard, do you think they're going to announce the iOS cloud stuff more as like officially launching on with xCloud at E3?
I would assume, right? Might as well save some announcements for your big show, right?
Yeah, they've been talking about it, teasing it, saying it's coming, it's this, there's a beta, there's this forever, but I wonder if they're going to be like, it's coming officially this day, now, whatever, at E3.
Yeah, probably. The last two things in Game Pass news are kind of for the far future. Not that far, actually, for this one. But Cyberpunk RPG The Ascent comes to Xbox Game Pass this July on the 29th.
I was going to mention this to you because I saw that it was coming, and I think I was going to text you, but I was going to wait. It says that I think that game's co-op.
It
is
is
that something you want to play?
This game looks fantastic, and from previews I've heard, although it's a twin-stick shooter, which isn't typically my thing, but previews for this game have said that it's really, really good, and that it might be the best indie game of the year.
Well, that's great. I put it in our list of co-op games to play, so it's in there.
We will 100% be playing that. Another game that was announced, but this one for, I believe, September? Let me double check. Doesn't say, just says the fall. So, the fall, action RPG, The Rift Breaker, is coming to Xbox Game Pass day one later this year. So, if that's a game you're interested in, maybe we'll talk about it more when it gets closer to coming out, but go ahead and check it out.
Yeah, I don't know about this one. I don't know anything about it.
And that is the end of the X Block.
Ooh, a lot of news. A lot of news this week, Jeremy.
A lot of news this week, mostly just because we always find a way to make the outside the box 50 minutes long.
We just have good conversation, dude. The news isn't even that long. I just talk forever.
That is the end of the X Block. Now moving on to the X Factor discussion. We're going to try to keep it a little bit quicker in this one because I think it's going long, but I don't know because Caleb and I have cut a shitload of stuff from this one where we just rambled about nothing to each other.
Yeah, it's great.
So here's what's happening in this week's X Factor. Netflix has announced that they're looking to hire a video game executive. And Caleb and I's discussion is, will any entertainment company actually be able to get into the video game industry? And who do we think can? Because the Netflix thing's kind of just a jumping off point. I don't really care that they're hiring a video game executive. It would have been in the fact.
I didn't even read about the story because I didn't care. I saw it and I was like, okay. So the X Factor discussion is, will any entertainment company actually be able to get into the gaming industry, and who do we think can? Over time, at some point, probably, is really the answer. At this point, Google has tried. They suck and they can't. I don't care what they say about how Stadia is doing. I don't give a fuck. They can't. Who cares? Then there's Amazon, who is the biggest fucking moneyed interest here. And they're great at, giving people the retail gaming space, seemingly, and even just the game sales space in general that aren't directly on digital storefronts. Amazon has kind of copped that market in a large way from GameStop, but also Walmart has too. in a bit, and Best Buy to a lesser degree, I think, with their different deal, and Target with like different deals that give you money off a full retail purchase if you buy it there, whatever. So they're a big game seller now. They have a studio that didn't they cancel that MMO game, the Lord of the Rings game that they were working on? What happened with that?
I think they canceled that. And one game that they put out, they released it and then put it back into beta.
Yeah, they unreleased it. I remember that shit. Yeah. So Amazon, with all their infinite fucking wisdom, can't do shit right now, at least. And then they have Luna that no one knows about, but it's probably decently cool, but who cares? Steam this is the gaming industry, okay? Because I was going to say, getting into console space, we talked about the Steam box before, which Steam couldn't break into the console space. That was weird, though. And I don't think they really tried. So that's kind of unrelated, but there you go. Netflix, I don't even know what they've done in the past. They could. It seems like they could, just because they understand content creation better, especially in the media space, because Google and Amazon and all that. Amazon has Amazon Prime, so there's their Amazon Originals. Netflix is more the subscriber kind of icon, and globally, when you talk about a subscription service, you talk about Netflix as such. So kind of like Game Pass is replicating Netflix to a degree. So with that industry changing in that way, perhaps Netflix could do some shit. Will they really break in? I don't know, man. I see the way that them breaking in, or anybody breaking in, is you want to have smaller, successful licensed games that are really well made. And then from there you build, right? Like that's how it happens. Like you have a Netflix published game from, I don't know what they would use, but they already tried. They had a Stranger Things game, right? Did they publish that? How did that work?
I don't know if they published it. They definitely gave it to somebody to make.
Yeah, so I don't know, dude. You have to really put your fucking money behind it and really give it a go. And even then, Google did kind of do that in a way, not completely, but they did put a lot of money and investment and try.
Yeah, but they didn't make any game. They had no first-party IP, which is why they failed.
Yeah, well, also that they tried a only streaming platform, whereas Microsoft and others are like, well, people in the know are like, bro, you stupid. You don't have a streaming service now. You have it as an option, as an offshoot of your normal setup with downloading games and all this other shit. I don't know who else would be able to break into the gaming space, because those are the big ones, right? Netflix and Amazon and Google. And you have Apple. They already kind of are in the gaming space, but in a different space
they're a
than
store.
The PC consoles. They're the App Store, and the Apple, what is it? They have their own games now. Is Apple Games or some shit? That whole subscription thing.
Is that just that's just a curated amount of titles that they put in a subscription, right?
Yeah, something like that. I don't use it, so, and I know you don't use it, so it's something like that. But they're successful, actually. Apple kind of has the phone market on the mobile market on lock.
Literal
lock. And and there's a whole getting sued about it right now. All this other shit. So I don't know where else you go from there. In terms of the gaming space as it exists now, it's such an investment and so little return and such a risk if you're trying to especially manufacture hardware, because you don't make money on manufacturing hardware, and you have to make it competitively cost with competitive features versus other hardware. And then you have to have games for it, which means you have to make studios and you have to invest in them long term over 3, 4, 5, 6 years, depending on if you just start a studio. You also have to get talent at that studio, because you can't just hire anybody to make fucking games. You have to siphon people from elsewhere, from actual known studios and really good developers. I don't know, to the question, I don't know who could break in. It's hard. It's really hard to break into the gaming space, and people have tried and failed.
I've got the answer.
And that's why it's pretty niche. What's that?
I've got the answer.
Okay, I'm interested to hear, because I can't think of anything. Oh yeah, Disney. I forgot there's Disney too, but they could do something if they tried.
All right, here it is. Here's my application, Netflix. So what we're going to do is we're going to become the new Telltale with all of the IP that Netflix owns. And the easiest thing to do with a streaming platform, everyone has them on their TVs. Everyone has them on their Xboxes. Everyone has them on their phones. What do all those things have in common? You have something that you can maneuver with that isn't necessarily a controller. We make a version of a Telltale game where it's kind of choose your own adventure, which is like what they did with that Bandersnatch movie. I assume that's what they're trying to move more towards, is they're trying to do gamified shows. I feel like they come out as kind of the equivalent to Telltale, and they make experiences in Netflix where you can play through episodes/seasons of the IPs that they own, and they make those more into choose your own adventure style games, and they put those on Netflix because normal people will play through those if they're simple to understand, and you don't have to understand a controller or mouse and keyboard. You can just use your remote to pick options.
Yeah, and they're very basic video games in that regard.
And it's easy to develop.
Yeah, so they could make something large out of that on their own platform.
Because on their platform, they have people who write. They work with them all the time. They have people who animate. They work with them all the time for their animated shows. You grab those two people, you put them together, They write you a story that they animate. You bring in the little games division that you have. You don't even need that many people. You do if you want to make multiple things quickly. Then you bundle those gaming people together with what the animation people are going to do and the writing people, and then you can come out with animated game style Telltale games
that you would publish everywhere or just on Netflix? Yeah, I was gonna say that's kind of the interesting point, isn't it? Is like, yeah, you kind of have to make Netflix has their own market of subscribers and everything. So if they could integrate games into their own service, that seems like a way.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you think about the traditional gaming industry, how do you get into that? It's like, well, it's kind of, you do maybe kind of what Apple did, which is make your own market.
Yep. So I think that's the best move from Netflix, is to entirely do their own thing.
Yeah, where they exist already.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I kind of agree with that. That's a good take. I'm with that.
And that is the end of the X Factor discussion. When Caleb and I agree, we might as well move on because there's nothing else to talk about.
Yeah, the only other thing, like I said, is Disney, but they seem to just give their IP out to whomever, and they make games.
Disney likes
like
money.
Star Wars, and they fail with Avengers, and then they got other shit. They tried with that Disney, what is it, To Life? Toys to Life?
Yeah, well, they used to publish games, right?
Yeah, they used to have other things.
They used to own game studios.
They like not risking anything. Like that's the thing about media companies. Smart media companies license out their IP because there's no risk to them.
Yeah, you just get money.
Yeah. They don't have to worry about manufacturing. First of all, as I was saying, you can't compete in the manufacturing hardware space. You don't have studios that you have to run and all this investment and risk and shit. It's like, no, we have great IP. We'll have EA pay us money or whatever the fuck to make a Star Wars game. There you go.
Yep. And now moving on to Game Pass or gameplay. And essentially, every month we pick a game off of a wheel. We spin a wheel. It gives us a game that is entirely just in Game Pass. And then Caleb and I have to play that game for some amount of time to give you a review that is like, hey, should you play this game on Game Pass? Not like a numbered score. We're not reviewing the whole game because lots of the time we don't play the whole game. We are just giving you an idea of if this is a game you should take a shot on Game Pass where you already have access to the game for free. And this month's game was DayZ. And Caleb and I have largely played it, gotten all the achievements. And we will be giving our review on that, I believe, next episode. Is that what you said, Caleb?
Let's see. I have the calendar right here so I can look. Actually, not. Oh, yeah. So this episode will publish on May 24th. The next episode will publish on May 31st. So we will be giving our impressions, I guess, June 7th.
Yeah, so 2 episodes from now.
Yeah, we had a little more time just because this month has a 31st day, and it's just the timing. And yeah, so there you go. Like Jaron said, we beat it. Got all the achievements. Played it a good deal. Have some thoughts, have things to say, but a little bit of a tease.
Yeah, a little bit of a tease.
Since we beat it, like, these are our final impressions, so might as well not talk about it now. Right?
Yeah, if you'd like to hear our other reviews for Spiritfarer, Donut County, and Dirt 5, check any of our previous episodes that were the first of each month.
Yep, there you go. Go for it.
There you go.
We got a few games in the pipe. We completed, by the way, I'll just say, we completed Dirt 5 and completed Donut County. And then Spiritfarer is just a weird type of game, so we didn't
Wasn't our
complete
thing.
it. So yeah, there you go.
Now, moving on to the FAF. And the FAF is where we give you the news that is kind of pointless, and it's definitely FAF if you were to read it yourself. So I read it to you in a fun way where we mostly make fun of it. If your stuff is in here, feel free to tell me that you think it should be in the other part of the show, and I will still put it back here next week.
Jaron doesn't tell me what these stories are ahead of time either. I have to find out with you, and sometimes want to kill myself in the process.
And we've got 5 minutes for it this time, Caleb, so...
Oh, God. Fast speed run. All right, first off, returning segment, the MicroFAF.
The MicroFAF, I can actually let you talk about this one, Caleb. An original Xbox dashboard Easter egg has emerged after 20 years. Quick summary of that.
Whoa.
You wrote the story on it, didn't you?
Yes, so the original Xbox has a lot of Easter eggs hidden within the OS and shit, and there have been some discovered before. This one is a new one, and it's just basically if you go through the process of ripping a CD in the original Xbox dashboard, which you could do, you name the soundtrack, and you go to like name the CD that you're ripping, and it's, you name it Timmy with, 26 Ys and an exclamation mark, and you enter that in and you wait for the CD to rip, and then you go back to the main menu, you check the system info, and instead of the normal system info, it lists the developers of the dashboard, and it's kind of a small Easter egg, but it's in line with another one that is meant you type in shit in the naming soundtrack stuff. And there is the guy who designed and created the original Xbox has said back in 2017 that there is a Easter egg still in the system that hasn't been discovered. So just a lot of hidden bullshit out there. It's kind of cool if you're into that, but it's also very niche and really unimportant. I wrote an article about it over at Screen Rant if you want to go check it out. There you go.
There you go. Next up, Halo Infinite is getting high-end socks.
Is it really?
Yep, they're super
I didn't know
expensive.
about
I
this.
looked at a pair. It was like $60,
Fuck.
so I passed.
No. I'm good. Thanks and goodbye. No.
Next one, Caleb.
FAF station.
Sony has patented its own game betting system. Now you can bet on esports with the possibility of using Bitcoin and digital items. So, hey, remember when digital items couldn't be shared and that's what made it not gambling? Well, Sony wants to ruin that for everyone in the industry.
We'll see. Yeah, I think it was this patent was published, or it was made in like 2019 and then published this year. And yeah, they're like, yo, we want to integrate a system on the screen where you can bet on shit. Get into that sports gambling, craze.
Sony's a bunch of fucking psychopaths. All right, moving
They
on.
really are, dude. This one is The Duty Department, above and below.
All right, speaking of above, Warzone trailer shows new Rambo and new points of interest, including Die Hard's Nakatomi Plaza. So if you ever wanted to be in that hotel from Die Hard, it's in the game now.
I swear to God, if I have to hear about fucking Warzone and Rambo one more week, Jared.
I know, they keep just telling new stupid things about it. But speaking of stupid things about Warzone, cheaters are still getting under the map. That's why it was called above and below.
Oh yeah, I saw there was a new glitch where there can't be that many new ways to get under the map. At that point, it's a feature. It's a feature, Jared. That's part of the game is getting under the map.
Big map.
People have been able to get under the map 19 times.
All right, next one, Caleb.
A fun foursome. 4
class action lawsuits over Cyberpunk's troubled launch are combining to become one super lawsuit.
Wow, dude. Mega lawsuit incoming.
There you go. All right, you're dead, CD Projekt Red. They're going to take all your money.
We'll see. Probably not, but we'll see.
Next one, Caleb.
Massive debut.
Mass Effect Legendary Edition comfortably smashes BioWare's Steam player record. EA was boasting all about this. They also failed to say that none of their games originally came out on Steam because they were on EA Access or Origin. So kind of cheapening your own result there.
Bunch of dumbasses.
Next one, Caleb.
Developers say the darndest things. They do, Jared.
Resident Evil Village's QA department really didn't like the game's combat at first. Basically, the combat was terrible.
Here's the thing. I'm going to say something about Resident Evil Village. I've seen the game, played through. And it looks fantastic, looks great. The combat looks fine. It looks just like a little more combat version of 7. But dude, people are saying how great it is and how it's this, and that, dude. People like Capcom, some people, I don't know, they get away with shit that people would no way get away with. Like, I'll just say that there's an infight, a bit of an infight, not the infight, but one of the infights. We're fighting a bunch of the Lycans at once, right, Jared? That makes sense? You throw a grenade at them. I was watching Ray Narvaez Jr. play through it on his Twitch stream. You throw a grenade at them, and you kill them all, right? So there's like 7 Lycans there, and they all die, right, with the grenade. They all have the same death animation at the same time. Like it's like they all, like, you know how if AI does the same animation, it looks like they're all doing it in unison.
Yep.
That's what happened. Like, that's... So for all, as good as the game looks, as well as it's developed, as good as I think the game is, just from having watched it, played, and all these other things, they still have a thing where like the Lycans all have the same exact death animation every time. At least when Ray threw that grenade, and they all 7 did the same exact thing, like it was a game made in 2008. It was the craziest shit I saw. Anyway,
that does sound like pretty lazy.
It does. I was like, what the fuck? Like, all this the ray tracing looks great, this and that, and then these Lycans all have the same animation when they died. I was like, it really teleported me back to like 2008, like a game I was playing. Like, I was like, how did this happen? Anyway, I've heard no one talk about it.
You know what's not lazy though, Caleb?
What's up?
Apparently, Deathloop. This is my favorite quote, maybe from a developer. Deathloop director isn't worried about sales pressure. This isn't fast food. This is cuisine.
What about Kids Cuisine? You remember Kids Cuisine?
I don't know what that is. That sounds American.
Oh, dude, look up Kids Cuisine, man. That's some basically it's like Lunchables, but even more off-brand kind of. Yeah, it's kind of like, and it's called Kids Cuisine, and they had all these commercials when I was a kid, and it was like, I don't know, man.
I love this shit, though. My game isn't fast food. It's cuisine. All right, dude. Fucking relax.
Dude, I'm sorry. That guy's a humble developer with a fucking big dick, man. I'll tell you what.
All right, Caleb, hit me with the next one.
Games. More like ideas. ...
Tear through this one real quick. Serial game studio buyer Embracer could acquire at least 20 more companies.
They talk about studio development, Jeremy, with Microsoft, right? These
Yep.
people have like 70 they're going to have like 89 studios.
I believe they have 140 projects in development.
Yeah, over like what's going to be like 80 studios if they acquire 20 more.
Speaking of games that aren't coming out anytime soon, Uncharted director Amy Hennig's new studio brings on Star Wars writer Todd Stashwick. They were together in EA, now they're back together again.
They're getting the band back together for whatever Amy Hennig's trying to make.
Speaking of Star Wars, director J.J. Abrams' gaming studio raises $40 million working on AAA new IP. He used to work at Bethesda when they were driving it into the ground. He was on their executive board, so get excited for that. I didn't even know he had a game. Apparently he's got a game studio.
Who cares?
I don't even know if they're making a game yet, but they got money.
Yeah, maybe they're making Sega's Super game.
Yeah, you know what I really thought was that J.J. Abrams needed to raise money. Who the fuck's giving him money? Like, spend your own
Jesus
damn
Christ.
money, J.J.
Yeah, goddamn, dude. Directed 2 Star Wars mainline movies. Jesus,
He's poor. He needs your
dying.
money. All right, Caleb, last one.
One sentence reactions.
Here we
Here's
go.
favorite.
Disney's new Spider-Man ride features physical microtransactions.
I got nothing. That's just unbelievable. What do you say about that?
Next one. eBay is banning the sale of adult video games.
Fuck.
You wish.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Fuck.
UK Council criticized for spending on massive Mario Bros. Plant pots.
Reread that one. Hold on a minute. That's a lot of words.
UK Council criticized for spending on massive Mario Bros. Plant pots. They're downtown and they're these huge green pots.
Are
that
they
have
growing
plants in
weed?
them. No, they're just huge green pots that have trees.
Oh, they're pots that have... Dude, I'd have to see this to understand what the fuck that even anything you just said was. I don't know.
And the last one, which I'll always traditionally react to. Fortnite NBA skins leak as summer event is teased. Nobody cares, but it goes in the description for extra views.
There you go, dude. Fucking get them tags, Jaren. Yee.
And that is the end of the X Block episode 13. We haven't said it the entire podcast, so if you'd like to see us on different platforms and maybe submit your own questions to us, you can follow us on Twitter at XBlockPodcast. You can follow us on Instagram at XBlockPodcast. You can follow us on TikTok at XBlockPodcast. About the TikTok, we're taking about 3 weeks off because I'm saving up a bunch of videos so I don't have to edit them every single week. So closer to E3, you guys will start to get your TikToks again.
I missed them. They're great.
If you want to leave comments on our YouTube, you can look up the X Block Podcast, and any comments you leave there, we will use them in our X Factor discussion. And if you happen to hear this podcast somewhere that you don't traditionally listen to podcasts and you would like to find us on a more conventional platform, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and whatever else Anchor connects us to.
Everything. Just look everywhere. We're everywhere. We're in your house right now.
And if for some reason you would like to give us money to maybe get Caleb a new microphone, Caleb will tell you about where you can do that.
Dude, patreon.com/xblockpodcast. Feel free to throw us $1 or $4.5 billion. Any amount
I'll
between
accept
there,
that.
we'll take.
Yeah, nothing more, nothing less. And that
Yeah.
is the end of the X Block, episode 13. Take us away, Caleb.
X Block out.
Thanks for listening to the X Block. New episodes every Monday at 5 a.m.